Ketamine helps us in so many different ways. It's not just the profound experiences that we have when God's in the room with us talking to us. How about the benefits it has on your body? Inflammation. It does so many different things that it's beneficial for your body. Marijuana is the same way. Cannabis is the same way. There's so many other things that it helps you with. So for us to be so closed-minded and really just to corrupt people's own way of thinking and their own experience, it's disgusting that the world does that.
Welcome to the My Self Wellness Podcast. I'm Charles Patti, the voice of My Self Wellness, along with my co-hosts Christina Thomas and Jamie Venziel. 9 years ago, I began my journey to self-awareness and healing. Like many who have faced personal struggles, I felt lost and struggled to find lasting healing. It wasn't until I discovered alternative healing methods that I began to see a real change in my life. This show will help you unlock your true potential through healthy lifestyle practices and transformations. Join us as we explore personal stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you step into your true potential and level up. Welcome to the My Self Wellness Podcast. Welcome to another episode of the My Self Wellness Podcast. Today we are here with Michael Gonzalez. Michael is an intervention specialist. He was also one of the producers from the A&E series Intervention. He is a proud owner of dispensaries in the cannabis industry and has one heck of a story that we're going to dive into. So thank you so much for agreeing to be on our show, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited about this. I've been wanting to talk and just get together with you for the longest time. So this is just amazing for me.
Heck yeah, man. So I don't know. I'd like to kind of kick it. We've talked about a lot of the healing through alternative modalities, like different psychedelic compounds and things like that. I think pre any of that kind of stuff, I would love to get into your history and know who you are and where you came from and things like that, man.
I think that it's definitely evolved. Moving the chairs.
I know. Right?
What did I say? I can't hit you up there.
The energy, it makes me want to move. I think for me, my story has evolved. So it's really important that I start sharing more of my message now because, people have had this image of me that, I was on the television show Intervention and I'm still a participant whenever I want to be and whenever I have the time. But the reality is my whole mission and meaning in life has kind of changed, so telling the updated version of my life is important so people can understand what I'm doing. But that's what I was known for, was from the television show Intervention. But I work in the treatment field. That's how I started. I started as a companion. I was actually on parole, living in Prescott, Arizona. Couldn't find work, couldn't even get a job at McDonald's. When you got all these felonies, it's hard to find work. But my sponsor at the time, he blessed me with an opportunity that changed my life. He said, go pick up this guy at the airport and tell him how you got sober. And that's where my journey started. I was on parole and I went to the airport and I picked this guy up and I got a hotel room in Phoenix, Arizona, and just started hanging out with him and told him my story and told him how I got sober. And from that journey is how I actually got into this seat with you right now. At the end of the day, it's part of my journey. I started companioning people from their worst, their bottoms, their most tragic times to treatment, detox, whatever their situation called for. But I was their companion. And that's how I got into this business of recovery in the treatment field. I would just escort people to their final destination. And in that journey, I was introduced to Rick Parrish of Sober Escorts, Inc. And that's kind of how my life just took off for the next, I would say, solid year. And I was on parole while I was doing this. And I was flying all over the country, helping people, getting people from detox to treatment, from treatment to wherever they were going in their life. I was there helping them along. And I got to do this thing called recovery as well. And, I worked for probably about a solid year before I ever met Rick Parrish. Rick Parrish is definitely somebody that he is the catalyst of why I get to do what I do today, because he believed in me. He never met me. He hired me sight unseen because of something Jimmy Rizzo told him. And Jimmy Rizzo said, give this guy a job. He's going to do something in this field. And that's where I never looked back. From that journey, I met with a lot of people, but treatment in the treatment industry is where I started. And being a companion is really how it started. But that's what introduced me to the television show Intervention and on the journey of intervention as well. But my past life is what brought me to this world of, struggling with drugs and alcohol. That's how I found recovery. I found recovery in a prison situation that I was in I was serving 12 years. But my prison situation is what brought Alcoholics Anonymous and 12-step recovery to my life. And from that journey, it introduced me to the treatment field as well. And that's how I really got into this journey, was going to an AA meeting.
So like one thing I want to highlight real quickly, because this is so important. And like, I find that like sometimes when people have gone through similar situations and they've made it out to the other side, that they don't want to talk about it. It's like this part of their life that they've left behind, and it's almost like something they try to sweep under the rug, or it's something that they're ashamed of or whatever. And like, you are a true testament to the fact of like, when you get out there and shine your light and you've made it through something dark and you share your story with other people, it literally leads you down this path of finding purpose through the darkness, and then like being able to utilize the lessons that you've learned throughout your journey to be of service and help other people. Mm-hmm. So like, I love the fact that we're very similar in that aspect, and I'd like to just encourage other people that have been through similar situations to not be ashamed of anything like this, or look at it like something that does need to be swept under the rug, that it's important to get out there and share your message and your story.
I appreciate that. I mean, the biggest thing for me was I was ashamed. I was in a lot of shame about my past. You know, growing up the way I grew up, my lifestyle was a lot different than most people. You know, growing up in gangs and drugs and violence was just a different way than most people, you know, but that's the lifestyle I grew up in. So going to prison for me was like graduation. You know, it really was for my family and the way I was raised. So going to prison was something that I was really ashamed of for the longest time when I finally got released. Growing up, it was like going to college. You know, in my lifestyle, that's what prison was looked at like. So for me, keeping it closed off and not telling everybody was really how I lived my life. But when I got involved in 12-step recovery, it was all about, you know, clearing the wreckage of your past and really talking about your life. And I align with some of that stuff. You know, I really do, because being able to talk about my past is what I've noticed has helped a lot of people, you know, because there's lots of people out there like myself, like yourself, and they just want to talk and they want to hear people talk about it. Because for me, it's a miracle. Like, I'm sitting here right now, I'm in Florida. First of all, I live in Florida. I'm from the West Coast. You know, I'm from California. I don't come from the same place as everybody else. And it's not that I'm special or anything like that. I just come from a different lifestyle. So saying that I'm in Florida now, first of all, that's most of my family and friends that I grew up with are either dead or they never left California. They've never been out of the hood. So being all the way over here is a huge thing for me. But just being able to spread this message to other people is important to me, because just one story helps somebody get outside of what they normally live like. And that's what it took for me. You know, my sponsor at the time, he said, go pick this guy up. Go tell him your story. That's all I did, guys. It wasn't the right place at the right time. It was nothing like that. This is already lined up for me. This is something that I firmly believe in, and I'm supposed to go through these steps, you know, and I appreciate that. And I tell this story as much as I can. I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm not proud of it either, though, at the same time. Like, I'm not proud of going to prison and doing those things. I'm proud of the person I've come to become today. You know, being able to have this conversation with you. 2 days ago, I was at Busch Gardens with my family. You know what I mean? That's the kind of person I get to be today. I wasn't like that before.
So I was actually doing another show with somebody yesterday, and we had this, it was not our show, a different show, but we had this conversation, and it was basically like, where I was like, God was with me the entire time, and I was actually perfect the entire time. You know, it's like when people look at somebody that kind of has a past of similar things that we would have went through in our journeys, they're like, oh, that was really bad. And like, it's all a perspective.
Yes.
It's all like, as Dr. Ferbo would say, it just is. There is no good, bad. It's like, it's this symphony, this synchronistic flow of this evolution of who we're becoming. And so it's like, that was all divinely guided too.
Absolutely.
And I'm a true believer in what you said. It's like, this was completely divinely orchestrated. Every single trial, every single tribulation, every single mistake that I made, everything that I had to go through in order to evolve into the person that I am today, so I can be of the highest level of service.
I'm 100% in agreement with you on that fully, because every experience that I went through, like, every single one has helped me in my journey today but it helps when I tell people my story. They can't believe that I'm sitting here, first of all, but neither can I. But at the end of the day, like that staunch abstinence thought that I had, that walk that I walked for a while, I needed that. I needed to understand that. I needed to understand what I was going through. I had to do that. And there was no better person to go through that than me. Like he put this on my shoulders for a reason because of all my trials and tribulations that I was able to do. And I've been through a lot. 12 years in prison is no joke. I spent 5 years in the hole by myself in the hole, 1 year without even leaving my cell. So when we talk about isolation and loneliness, nobody knows it like I know it. If you've never walked a walk that I've walked, then you would never know. But isolation and being alone and knowing yourself, I know me in my best of times and my worst of times. And I know for a fact I was supposed to walk this walk exactly as I'm walking it, because millions of people, whether they know it now or not, millions of people are going to hear a very similar story, and they're going to need to hear abstinence isn't for everybody. They're going to need to know that recovery happens in so many different forms. I'm on somebody's television every night of the week because of Netflix. And I'm grateful for that because my story will help somebody. That's it. It will help somebody make a decision to get to the next point. And their preconceived notions of some of us thinking that we are aligned with only a certain way of thinking, that's great in the beginning, but then I've evolved and that helps them evolve. They see my transformation because I was that hard, abstinence is the only way, do the steps or die. That's who I was because it helped me at that time. But I also showed a chink in the armor and that change can happen, and it can happen at any time, and you can change your mind. You can absolutely change your mind, and it can always be for the better if you want it to be. It can always be for the worst if you want it to be too. But what I've learned is that my change gives people the strength.
And both of your changes give people so much hope. And by hiding your stories, that hope, that glimmer of hope that you might give somebody, they won't be able to see it. They won't be able to see themselves in you. And it's beautiful, both of your stories. What did spending a whole year in isolation and 5 years in the hole and 12 years in prison do for your mental health? How did that affect you when you got out?
So what I noticed early in my release is when I really noticed that I was struggling from new things that I hadn't noticed before. And one of the main things was my mental health. I could tell that something was off. I was paranoid. I was very much okay with isolation. I was okay with being by myself. And that's something that I learned in prison, and it really is, but it affected my mental health, being able to communicate with other people. And you don't know that until you've been in that situation, and then you get out and try to communicate with people. I couldn't communicate. I would literally just not understand how to communicate. And that was early on in my release. But the PTSD from isolation and the violence that I seen and partook in myself, there's things that I had to do in prison that I'm not proud of, but that doesn't go away. No matter how much treatment, that doesn't go away. It's there, and it's there for me to deal with. And what I've learned in my journey is that I'm okay to deal with it now. But it has severely damaged my brain, being incarcerated for that amount of time by myself. My isolation, where I didn't leave the cell for a year, was probably the safest thing I could have done for myself at the time. Because the reason why I did it was because you get taken out of your cell, and you would only leave to go to the dog pen to get exercise, or you would go to the shower. Well, you get left in the shower for 8 to 10 hours in a dark box is basically all it is. And you would get left there for hours on end, and I chose not to do that. So I stayed in my cell, protecting myself. But also with that came, isolation. I never left my cell, so it definitely hurt me. But I still feel it to this day.
It's unimaginable.
To describe it as like, I feel like I was just there. It doesn't go away. Like, I can think of it like it was yesterday, and that the damage is I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And it's not okay. It wasn't okay that I went through that. I didn't deserve to go through that. But the problem that I have in my brain is I'm okay with it. And I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be okay with it. But my mental health is definitely something that is affected by it every day, because I think about it every day. I've been out of prison now for quite some time, more than I've been incarcerated now, so finally. And I think about it every day. I think about prison, every situation, like it's there every day. But how I deal with it is completely different now.
Have you done ketamine yet?
Absolutely.
Have you?
Absolutely.
Have you done ketamine?
Absolutely. So just giving you a little background, because I haven't got to it.
Yeah, no.
I could talk forever, but my mentor, Sherry Sigafus, she is a believer in ketamine treatment. She does what you do, similar to what you do here. She does that in Virginia Beach. And she's one of the founding people that was out there pushing for ketamine to come legal like it has been. So she's one of the biggest people in my life. She's the one that mentored me through becoming a coach, early on I was called a sober coach. And I kind of align with that way of thinking a little bit still, but coaching is what I align with. Not so much the sober coaching, but just coaching, because everybody could use a coach, And she's the one that mentored me through all that. I was on parole. I've always known I've had a gift, guys. Like anybody that does this knows they can do this. Like we know. I'm like all about what I do. I know God's like right here saying, yep, you're supposed to be doing this. I've had that conversation and I have it all the time. But like she helped me become the person that can speak with you guys. Because I was an animal. Like when I tell you I grew up in prison, 134577 is my number. I know that number better than I know my social security number, and I remember all my cells. I remember all my homeboys that I grew up with. Like I remember like it was yesterday, and I'm 46. It's been a minute since I've been there. I remember it better than I remember my kids' birthdays. Like you asked me what the effects, that's the effects right there.
Wow.
Like if you locked me up today, I would be just fine.
Yeah, institutionalized.
Yeah, like I can go, your smallest office here, I can go there and live 24 hours a day. And that's brain damage. Like I'm damaged, but I'm also grateful for all of that. Like, because there's people out there that have so many gifts that they don't get to share their gifts with the world. I'm not supposed to be sharing my gift, guys. Like 23 felonies, I had a 36-year prison sentence. I'm not supposed to be here. God had another plan for me. Like it is very clear. It's not a made up story. You can go back and look it up and it's there. And that's how come I'm all in, I'm all in. I come from the streets. I come from nothing. I come from absolutely nothing. And God said, no, you have another plan. And I remember Big Mind was right there on my shoulder saying, everything is going to be okay. My last ketamine experience before the hurricanes really solidified it for me, back-to-back hurricanes I'm going through, and I live by the water. So like, I was okay during all of that. Like I was fine. I knew everything was going to be fine. And that was because of my experience.
So I can completely relate to what you're saying, because it's just like once you get that divine message from God or the universe, and like, I like to call it God, it was the same message that I got, that like, you're supposed to create this healing organism that's going to transform humanity to a higher state of consciousness. And you're supposed to take this leap of faith, but it's not really a leap of faith because you're in divine synchronicity with the universe. And I'm just like, okay, so God told me I'm supposed to do this, so there's literally nothing that can veer me away from this right now. It's like beyond, like there's like not living in a place of fear ever, but like just going from a place of like, I know that I'm supposed to do this because I had a direct line. And it's like, so like when anybody ever told me that it was crazy sounding or that my dreams were too big or whatever, it's like, no, God told me, and then like, and I
Look, there's a Category 5 hurricane. Christina, calm down. We're going to be fine.
We're going to be fine because I know we're going to be fine because God said we're going to save the world.
That's right.
And like, that sounds completely crazy to people sometimes. And I'm sure if I wouldn't have had those experiences and somebody said that to me, I'd probably think it sounded pretty crazy too. But it's like I say, psychedelics took me from being a believer to an absolute knower because I had a direct line to the divine, man. And so it's like, I saw the visions, I got the message, I was told what to do. And the thing is that I think what's different, and I say this a lot of the time too, is that I took it like the blueprint. See, a lot of people will have these burning bush experiences or these amazing enlightening experiences on medicine. And then they're like, wow, what a crazy trip.
And then
back to my normal life again.
Business.
Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So I'm going to take this like it was the gospel. Like it was like, I've been looking for the answers my whole life. And then all of a sudden now they were just given to me. So like Alan Watts said, I'm going to take the receiver, put it to my ear, take the message, apply what I've learned to my life, and then put the receiver back down and run with it. And, you know, from everybody that told me it sounded so crazy when we first started this, a lot of them are coming back around and they're going, doesn't sound so crazy anymore now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so like, are these experiences real? Whether they are or not, it changed my life, but I am a real firm believer that they are.
I love to argue. Like that's the thing is if somebody wants to argue with me and debate with me about it, let's do it. You know, because the reality of my life, you can't really win the argument with me. You know, I have a direct line with him and he tells me what I need to be doing and he tells me what I'm not supposed to be doing. And it's up to me how I implement it. You know, my implementation after ketamine was the most important part of my life. Like I took that message, that direct message, and I put it to work.
Yeah.
Like that.
That's
and I
where
had
a lot of people fall short with their ketamine journeys is they get these messages or they see these things, parts of their life that they need to change, and then they don't implement it.
Yeah.
But it's a tool and it's a catalyst for change. And if you use it like a tool, then you can change your life.
My thing is the integration and what you do afterwards. And if you're going someplace that doesn't have that, then run the opposite way.
Yeah.
That's what I remember when my sponsor told me one time, he said, if somebody's trying to tell you how to live your life, run the opposite way. And I take that same, because it's 12-step recovery. It's supposed to be helping me with my addictions, not what's going on in my life. So I took that in the same way. Like that's what it means. If somebody is, there's no way to argue with it. You know, at the end of the day, like if somebody was giving me advice about my life, not my addiction, why would I listen to them? You know, and it's the same thing when you integrate this into your life. If there's no integration afterwards, run the opposite way because it's not the clinic you want to be.
No, there's a lot of, most clinics don't offer it.
Yeah, exactly. Your name said wellness. You're supposed to be getting well. You're supposed to be getting some guidance from professionals. And that's the other reason why I have such a passion about this, because if we don't do, and I mean you guys too, if we don't step up and become the voices and talk about this and show people how we're supposed to be doing this, you know who's going to take this over.
People don't know what they don't know.
Listen, like, you know, I feel like this is an industry that needs to be ran by psychonauts, but at the same time, like with doctors that are professionals that are psychonauts, I mean, and that have done the work and the integration. And like, I'm not coming from a place of ego when I say this, but like, so we're not the cheapest clinic around here. Okay. We're not. And that's okay. But the fact, but the fact is, I was like, I was on the phone with a lady explain. She's like, well, I just called this was yesterday. She's like, I just called another clinic that's not far from yours and they're cheaper than you. And I said, well, you know, the fact is that if you want to go somewhere and just be hooked up to an IV of ketamine and get the medicine and then have them usher you out after your treatment is over, and that's all the service that you're going to get, it's a completely different kind of service than what we're offering at our facility. You know, I have 2 integration specialists that work with people pre and post sessions. We have like, you know, a cell phone that one of our integration specialists takes home with them. And if somebody's in crisis and they're calling, like they get an answer.
Always available.
We're always available.
As we should be, right?
100%. But like when you're going to a place that isn't offering you integration through the process of your treatments, now we're just relying on the medicine. And see, like, that's the opposite of what my answer for everything is. I don't think that the medicine is the solution or the answer. I think it's a catalyst and one puzzle piece in this master puzzle that is, you know, just, it's as important as the integration and the meditation and the healthy lifestyle practices and all of the other things that are the recipe for long-term success with the medicine. See, it's funny and it's ironic in a way, but like, sorry for rocking, but the thing is,
you're really into it.
Our clinic, like the way we run it, I don't care about reoccurring revenue when it comes to ketamine. I don't care. I don't want you to come back for treatments anymore. And the problem is that that's complete opposite paradigm of any other business person or pharmaceutical company that's going to come and take its stake in here. See, and listen, I'll go ahead and it's probably going to get me in trouble, but here we go. Okay. All right. So Spravato, which is nasal ketamine, right? It is covered by insurance for depression, okay? And so the thing, and for PTSD, right? There's a problem with Spravato, though. The problem is that they give it to you, and the highest dose that you could possibly get of the medicine is right below the threshold of a psychedelic dose of the medicine. So now, this is the pharmaceutical paradigm of I'm going to treat you.
Different receptors.
And so it hits the opiate receptors in the brain, and like, which could, make you find relief in doing it like that. But so like now, instead of me getting to the root issue and the root cause of why you have the symptoms to begin with, now we're back to the pharmaceutical paradigm of treating the symptoms instead. And so now people are going to have to come back and get their nasal spray ketamine continuously over and over and over again. And so now I've created another crutch for you, more reoccurring revenue for big pharma, et cetera, et cetera.
It's the same problem with at-home ketamine use, though, too.
That's right.
Yeah. No,
They
and like,
send you your prescription to your house.
And they say,
Here you go. And there's
Here you
no
go, fix.
oversight. Yep.
and like I've said this once and I'll say it again. Never have I ever heard of a shaman sending ayahuasca to somebody's house and saying, hop on a Zoom call with me and get on your bed and drink the medicine and I'm going to coach you through this. It doesn't work like that. And there's an energetic communion between people, right? So like the person serving you the medicine needs to be a high vibrational person because the medicine takes on the vibration of the person. And so now there's this energetic communion where like, if somebody that's serving you medicine hasn't done a lot of self-work and hasn't healed themselves properly, then all of a sudden the medicine's taking on their trauma and now you're eating that medicine. And so like, this is a huge aspect that Western-minded people aren't going to take into consideration, and where there's going to be a lack of actual healing happening. And now we're just getting everybody hooked on the medicines.
so this makes me think about early on in my career when sober companioning and sober coaching was the next thing. I was early on in that. I was one of the first people to do it. I was one of the first people to be out there in a situation where you're basically a treatment center on wheels. But what I see happening is a very similar thing. They've got this new thing. You go home and take it. It becomes a crutch, just like you said. And it's something that they're training people to do on the weekend. Okay, so you're a practitioner now. You take my little course for 2 days and now you can serve people. And that is the most ridiculous thing.
I know.
Okay. I sat and learned from my mentors and the people that I worked with for years before I was allowed to do anything. Okay. There's nothing like that in the industry that we work in anymore. People are pay us $3,500 and you're an interventionist.
Yes. No, 100%.
And I believe that that's the direction they're going with this again.
Oh, no, you can, this is exactly the direction.
You can buy the course for $9,000 and become a shaman.
Yeah,
It's sad because we're building it. We're not doing it. They're building the failed system again. That's all it is. And look, people get and find recovery 100 different ways, but we're built on this failed system of insurance. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
It's this failed system that just keeps them coming in so they keep the revenue. And that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, we're treating...
And addiction, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you get addicted to your antidepressants. You get addicted to your at-home ketamine. You get addicted, and so you have to keep coming back.
Mhm.
And then let's flip this to where you're like, abstinence isn't always the answer when it comes to recovery, because when in the recovery community, they're looking at psychedelics and cannabis as a relapse or a mind-altering substance. That being said, though, if you go to a 12-step program and you're on a string of pharmaceutical medications that they're prescribing you, well, then all of a sudden, that's perfectly okay. So you're good then, right?
Thumbs up.
There it is. And so
And you can go to your dentist and have dental work done and get ketamine, but heaven, God
The
forbid.
number one thing that leads people out, dental work.
Yeah. God forbid you go to a ketamine clinic and you get ketamine, you relapse.
it's funny because I really think that people forget the fact that Bill Wilson had a profound psychedelic experience that gave him his white light vision of the future, where he saw a society of alcoholics helping each other stay sober. And then 20 years into Bill's recovery, he was taking LSD for his own depression and anxiety, wanted to incorporate it as the 13th step of the 12-step program, but it was a program of abstinence by that point. So here for everybody out there, AA was spawned from a psychedelic experience.
So much.
It was spawned from a psychedelic experience. But now you have the big book thumpers and everybody in the 12-step programs that it's an ego trip where it's like, it's the hierarchy now and we're not on a level playing field anymore. And my way is the best way to recovery when like, hey, I'm just a fan of what works.
Yep.
I just don't want people to die anymore. If you find it through meditation or breath work or psychedelics or by going to 12-step meetings and having complete abstinence in your life, fantastic. But what I don't like to see is people throwing stones or casting judgment on people that get sober one way instead of another way. There's no better way. It's just like, let's all just get better together.
I mean, we look at Bill, he's a pioneer. And we said this earlier, pioneers. We're all pioneers. Like we really are. It's taking somebody to stand up and have the strength, the support, the bravery, and just the knowledge of what's going on to stand up and say, this is another way for recovery. Because you guys know that it takes voices like ours to be able to handle the backlash, because that's the other side of this. You know, talking about other ways to recover and going against that old way of thinking. It's a battle. I've watched the rooms of recovery destroy professionals, destroy them. And that's the reason why I'm so passionate about this, because this saves lives. Okay. So does AA and 12-step, that saves lives. But to cast thrones, like you said, it's not the route. We're pioneers and there's plenty of room for everybody to find recovery.
Well, so listen, I was talking to somebody who I respect and he's a AA guy. And I was like, listen, I go, the numbers show that when people go to detox and rehab for, detox, 28-day stay in rehab, 12-step meetings for the rest of their life, there is a 3 to 5% chance of long-term sobriety. Like more towards the 3%.
3%.
Okay, so that's 3 out of 100 people, right? But then I have studies that show, like for AUD, when Awaken did the sciences out of Canada, they gave people with alcohol use disorder ketamine, not even in a psychedelic dosing protocol, by the way. It was low because I checked the numbers. The fact is that after 6 months, 86% of the participants hadn't had one sip of alcohol. And so when I brought that study up, the guy's like, well, I'd like to know what the long-term data looks like. And I'm like, the long-term data from 12-step meetings is that 3 out of 100 people get sober. I'm like, so like now you've got 86%.
That's right.
They did another clinical study with ketamine with heroin and opiate addicts, and it was like 93% of them hadn't used in over 6 months or whatever. And so it's like, we're talking about not just like a little leap, it's like astronomically high success rates when it comes to these healing modalities. And it's because no matter how many steps that I work and no matter how many spiritual guidelines that I live by, it's not going to go in and do neurological healing to my brain. It's not going to go in and hit the receptors that create more dopamine naturally in my brain, which is our feel-good chemical that gets released when you drink and take opiates and other drugs. So then when you have an increase of that feel-good chemical, now I feel good. I don't need to self-medicate anymore. And it's like, so like there's no talk therapy, anything that's going to accomplish that. And the thing is that like Christina and I have been really passionate in talking about it lately, where in the future here, I want to get into the rehab business, but I want to do it the way that we're talking about doing it. Because the rehab business is, when it was brought up the other night, somebody's like, oh, it's a nicky business. It's a dirty business. Everybody's just in and out the doors. And I'm like, yeah, but what if we did it the right way?
Right?
What if we actually healed people? What if our numbers went from 3 to 5% to like 80% or something like that? And then all of a sudden it shifted this whole paradigm of the way that things need to be done. And then everybody with long-term sobriety also had to take a double take at this and be like, wait a second, maybe they're on to something here. Yeah. That's how you break the taboos and stigmas associated with this, is you give people the results. But the truth is that we're never going to get the results if people aren't open-minded enough to at least give it a shot.
I think that's why it's important for us to be the voices, people like us that we have the support of our peers, first of all, but we have been through the struggle, to be able to take this to that next level. Because, just like cannabis was just ostracized so much, and now it's being let down. People are starting to accept it a little bit more and more, but it leads into the healthier choice. So my friend Nick, he owns a sober living and an outpatient center in California, and they utilize cannabis. It's a specifically you're okay to partake in cannabis there as long as it's a medicine, and they treat it as such. It's his center is called The Healthier Choice, and it's THC, and that just proves right there. People are going to his program and they're finding recovery. They're finding recovery and what their recovery looks like. It's not necessarily that fits in a box, but people that have been using heroin for 20 years are no longer using heroin because they utilize cannabis as a medicine.
And that's huge.
And I mean, that's amazing. I think that that's a better alternative for people than to be hooked on Suboxone, to be hooked on Xanax, to be hooked on gabapentin. I mean, we find a way to abuse, because we're alcoholics and we're drug addicts. Like, we find the way to make ourselves feel better. And we have done it. And we've done it with all the pharmaceuticals. And that's what they do to people. They put them on all these meds in these treatment centers, and then they're hooked on those things and they find a way to get high. And for me, I think that cannabis was the one thing that I had always struggled. Like, I struggled with that. Oh, you can't smoke cannabis in AA. It really messed my head up. It really, it put me in this depression. Like, so you're telling me the one thing that brings me relief and makes me able to talk and be open and honest about what my life really looks like, you're telling me that's a problem. Like, I struggled with that for the longest time. But now that I've come out about that and just really have become a voice that says, hey, there's a lot of people out there that could hear good information coming from me if they were allowed to, if they would just let this message be out there. And since I started spreading the message that I have, which is cannabis helps people with their recovery, I feel better, first of all, because I'm not keeping that secret. The rooms of recovery had me believing I was an abstinent person, and I just wasn't, man. I couldn't be abstinent because I would have ended up back in prison, or I would have been dead. That's the other side of the thing that people don't look at, is like, some people's lives are that extreme, and the depression in my brain is that bad. And you're telling me I can't take something that makes me believe that there's a
plant.
Yeah, for the plant, first of all, but helps me believe there's a better way. Like, they were always telling me that I was wrong, and I just had that complete I knew it was wrong, man. I knew it was wrong, and I knew if I didn't stand up for it, that first of all, I wasn't going to be able to live with myself much longer, and that was the battle that I had. But I knew there was millions of other people that feel the same way I do. I'm not saying hundreds, I'm saying millions, because it's millions. There's millions of people out there. If they heard voices of such as ours with encouragement, they'll no longer live in shame. Like, I used to be that guy that shamed these people. You got to be sober. You got to do this. This is what sobriety looks like. No, it's not. Everybody's sobriety looks different. And for us to be so close-minded is the part that I have a problem with. We have cars that drive themselves. We have rockets that go to other planets. Like, we have all these amazing things. And you're telling me that abstinence is the only way a person can find recovery? Absolutely not.
In my early recovery, cannabis saved my life.
That's right.
And the thing is that because, like, I had severe PTSD from, like, jumping out of moving cars because people were trying to kill me, and getting robbed at gunpoint, and getting into bad fights and all kinds of stuff like that. And the thing is that, like, it was up until we opened up the clinic, I was using cannabis very heavily. I was taking massive amounts of oral THC every day. And it was literally like, I would take that massive dose and I'd be like, okay, I'm ready to go about my day now. And I was like,
Fine. He'd eat like a half
Totally
French
fine,
bar
man.
or so.
yeah, like, hundreds of milligrams of THC. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to go now. And, like, it was weird though, because when we opened up the clinic and I did the treatments, it did something different to me. I was like, wait a second, because, like, I felt the medicine healing my brain. I during my first treatment, she was there in the room with me, and it was like, and I could feel electricity like firing through my neural pathways, and I was like, I can feel this medicine healing my brain, and I was like oming to it and everything. The thing is, though, is after I went through the entire protocol, 10 milligrams of THC was like ruining me, bro. I was just like, whoa, wait a second here, man. I was like, this doesn't do what it was doing for me before. Like, holy crap, I can't even, like, function the right way sometimes. And so the thing is that it took my cannabis consumption to the point where I was just like, all right, like, I'm so driven and it's focused right now. Like, I just need to, like, not do this right now. But, like, if it wasn't for the cannabis, up until that point, I'd have been popping Xanax or doing something else that would have been really bad. And like the thing is that I look at cannabis and psychedelics this way, okay? Like with what we're talking about, we're like, these are medicines and things like that. Listen, I'm not judging anybody, but like from my personal point of view, I'm not like, hey, I think you should go do, it's okay to do a shot of dope every once in a while or something like that. Like that's not the message that I'm putting out there. But like, I think that it's like Joe Rogan says, you have drugs that are like bad for you. Like, you got meth and you got, cocaine and heroin and things like that. He's like, and then you have like things that are classified as drugs that are actually good for you. They're good for your brain. They're good for your mind. They're doing neurological healing and getting your chemicals producing properly. And that does fall in the category of like cannabis and psychedelic medicines. And even though cannabis is actually classified as a psychedelic, most people don't know that. But, so it's like, I think that when utilized properly as a medicine and as a tool, these things can be very beneficial for people, and they shouldn't have this blanket thrown over them that puts them in the same classification as these other ones that are doing very harmful things to people.
I mean, the first of all, the numbers are there that shows that it works. We have scientific proof for everything that we're discussing. I mean, ketamine helps us in so many different ways. It's not just the profound experiences that we have when God's in the room with us talking to us. How about the benefits it has on your body? Inflammation. It does so many different things that it's beneficial for your body. Marijuana is the same way. Cannabis is the same way. There's so many other things that it helps you with. So for us to be so closed-minded and really just to corrupt people's own way of thinking and their own experience, I mean, it's disgusting that the world does that. But for me, I think about all the people I buried, all the people that either were in my care or were with my care afterwards or whatever. I help most people through their whole treatment experience. And I help families through their whole treatment experience, But I think about, where am I at now? I think I'm at 74, 75 people that are no longer with us. And part of those numbers are when I was this abstinent, this is the only way you can do this. And I have to live with that. I have to live with that. I have to do the work around that to continue to believe that I'm making a difference in people's lives. And that's the part that I struggle with still, because I'm responsible. It is not my fault that they passed away. Okay. But I absolutely owe it to everybody to continue helping people find the other side of this, because those people didn't have to die. And that's what I really believe. But I needed to go through my experience to be able to get to the other side, to continue helping the really hard cases, because that's the phone calls that I get. I get the phone call for somebody that's been in treatment 75 times. The parents have all the money in the world and they don't know how to say no. Those are the people I get. Those are the people that call me and say, please save my kid's life. Please save my husband's life. Please save my wife's life. And I'm supposed to be able to help these people. And I'm supposed to have any way possible to help. And I believe that I have unlimited ways to help people, because I don't live in this box. Sometimes you need an alternative way to get this person to this side, and that's what keeps me going every day, is knowing that I participated in trying to help people, but they didn't make it. And during that process, we lost a lot of people, and I grew. And I know that we don't have to lose people anymore. I am taking responsibility for my part, and the treatment industry taught me a certain way to do things, and they were wrong. And they've been wrong, and they're still wrong right now. And that's why I'm the voice that I want to be today, is because I'm taking responsibility for my actions of being part of that corrupt system of, we were supposed to be helping people. And I struggle with it today. I still do. But the thing that I know now is we have a solution. We have a solution. We don't leave anybody behind. We don't have to. You don't have to say, you got to turn your back on them and cut the cards up and never help them again, because we don't have to do that, because that's not the way you help people. That's not, you don't just turn your backs on people. You don't cut them off. Like that's not helping people. And that was that belief that I got caught up in. And a lot of people died, because I told family members, you can't return that call. You can't pick up that phone call. And I'm ashamed of that. And I owe it to myself and everybody else to continue carrying the message of hope. That's what this is. This is hope. We provide just a little bit of hope, and then they do the work themselves.
Well, you know, it's like, so for years when I was in the rooms, the whole thing was that, like, I think that when they were talking about like complete abstinence, it's like to alcohol. Sure, if you have the allergy and the compulsion to keep on drinking after you've had a sip of alcohol and you are classified as an alcoholic or whatever, like, I think that that's a really good idea. There is no safe thing. Once too many, a thousand's never enough. We've all heard this kind of stuff. Cannabis didn't do that to me. You know, it was very different. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that the big thing when I was younger, when I was in the rooms and I would ask people that had been in the rooms for so long, I'd be like, well, like, what's wrong with cannabis? Like, why can't you do it in recovery? How come you have to take that out of the equation? And they're like, well, first off, it's illegal. Okay. And it's like, well, we're past that point now. I mean, that's not really a valid argument anymore. You can get your med card, and in many states, it's not illegal. And the thing is that it's that whole mentality of a drug is a drug is a drug is a drug. But like, that's an old paradigm too. It's not true. You know, so I talked to you about it briefly before, but like, you know, my buddy Nico, he was in the rooms. He had like 18 months of sobriety under his belt. He went to California on vacation. Cannabis is legal out there. He bought a blunt. He smoked it. He came back, told his sponsor about it. And he's like, well, you need to get your 24-hour chip again. Okay. Next thing you know, Nico doesn't go to meetings anymore. And then on and off, he was struggling back and forth. And now Nico's dead of a fentanyl overdose. You know, and the thing is like, so like, when you're talking about like ostracizing or shunning people for using a plant medicine that hasn't ever killed anybody from just using it or consuming it like that, like maybe somebody used it and got into an accident or something. Yeah. But like, I'm not aware of anybody that's directly died from just using cannabis.
There's nobody.
Okay. And so the thing is that, you know, we're in the middle of an opiate and fentanyl crisis out there, and people are dropping dead the first time that they use these things. And so when we're talking about, it's a healing journey and it's a healing process. And I think that getting off of the opiates or not using fentanyl or those kind of things and using cannabis instead to self-medicate those underlying issues is a very positive step in the right direction for me. And, you know, like you have like Suboxone, Subutex, Methadone. Methadone is probably the worst out of all three of those. But the fact is that at our clinic with ketamine, because I know I was on Suboxone, okay? And like it was that last milligram, and then it was the last half a milligram. Absolutely. And I was just like, I just want to stop taking it. I'm so close, but I can't stop taking this half milligram or whatever. We have tons of people that are in that same boat. And then by the time they go through the process of their ketamine treatments, they're completely off the Suboxone and Subutex and stuff like that. So it's like, I had a guy that we were talking about, like, you know, staying sober and they, you know, and the philosophy of AA or whatever and stuff like that. And he was just like, well, he was like, you know, he was talking about like supporting, you know, different businesses and stuff like that or whatever. And I know he's in recovery, and I saw him supporting an alcohol company. I was like, yeah, it's probably not the best look. You know what I'm saying? He's like, but I'm not judging. I was like, but like, you know, I got asked to do it, and like, I wouldn't do it. Right. He's like, well, you know, like I support, you know, like it's my friend's company, and like, and I support ketamine and things like that. And the thing is that, but like, ketamine isn't a drug that's really hurting people unless they're recreationally abusing it and misusing it out there. This stuff is saving people's lives on a daily basis and getting them off of all of the things that are known as these crutches that are keeping people in this continuous cycle.
We saw a clip this morning that said the Surgeon General has linked alcohol to cancer.
Yep.
And that they should label alcohol bottles with that. But I was saying people are so deep in it. They're so deep in the program of alcohol, and alcohol's okay. It's legal. Nobody's going to stop drinking.
Well, then you
say alcohol causes cancer. Nobody's going to stop drinking.
No, and then, people resort back to, well, Jesus drank wine. Jesus turned his wine into water.
We justify everything. We can minimize everything if we need to.
Yeah, and listen, and I've heard there's a lot of people that study ancient texts and things like that, and there's a distinct possibility he was actually talking about psilocybin tea.
Yeah.
Okay, and just throwing that out there. But well,
I want to mention something. When you said that it was, you felt it healing your brain, and I'm a proponent of psilocybin as well, because psilocybin changed my relationship with cannabis. So I, at one time, was doing a lot of copious amounts of cannabis because I didn't have any alternative to, the talk therapy just wasn't where it was at with me anymore. I've talked therapy enough, and the cannabis didn't seem to, it was working, but it wasn't working. I did another journey. And I could feel, literally, I remember coming out and I could just feel it changed my whole relationship with cannabis. And I medicate now when I need to medicate, and it's just like if you took your PRN, that's how I medicate. And it changed my relationship with cannabis. Most people don't even know that I'm on cannabis. That's just the truth, many episodes, and I'm sure I'll get backlash from A&E about this at some point, but many episodes I was on cannabis helping people. And, that's how I was able to help people, was because I needed to be medicated, because when I help people, they're at their worst. And what that does for me, when they're at their worst, it just kicks everything up for me, and I have to be able to walk these people down this path. Well, cannabis helped me with that. And, the reason I say that is because I'm walking, talking proof that it does help people. Okay. I'm not saying that somebody needs to go out and cannabis is the solution. That's not what I'm saying. I have fought long and hard through my journey of recovery to find out what's going to work for me and what's going to work for a lot of other people too. But what works for me doesn't necessarily work for somebody else. But having the education behind it and having some place to go and having somebody to talk to, I didn't have that. I had to find this journey myself. And I don't want that for other people. I want people to be able to call anybody and get the information they need, because that's the way it should be. If it's going to help you, you should be able to have a full understanding of it. It shouldn't be a secret, and nobody should be shaming you about it. You shouldn't be getting shamed about another route to happiness in your life, and there's so many levels of happiness that people are missing out on. It's not about going to a meeting every day and staying abstinent. That's not even life. Recovery is being happy and having a family and just being a good person. And people can't find it.
This is my biggest thing. Okay. And listen, I'm not hating, this is just my perspective, but so I have friends that have significant, these guys that are super passionate about AA and 12-step meetings and recovery. So what did you do today? Well, I went to a meeting. And, it's just I say this all the time, I didn't get sober just to get sober.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't want that to be the defining point in my life. It's that was just the beginning of my life, from the old version of me or whatever. But it's what now? And the last time I went to a meeting, it was a little while ago, and I pop in here and there and just, go check it out or whatever. And it was a very small group, and it was all guys. And everybody was just talking about that, all I have is today. I'm just, just making another meeting. I had one guy in the meeting. He's like, this is my third meeting today. And I'm just I go, what's next? So what are your goals? What are we going to accomplish? Because I want everybody to know, alcoholics and addicts have a superpower. It is not something that is a bad thing. It's just an addictive personality. So it's if you learn how to harness and channel all of that drive, like you used to drive yourself to go get your drug of choice or whatever, into building a business or doing something positive, and you've been to the depths of hell so you can withstand any kind of pain, and nothing seems as bad as that anymore. It's listen, I tell Christina and I tell other people, it's listen, I made it through heroin addiction, man. I can make it through anything. Anything. There's nothing that can stop me now, because it's I have been through the pits of the deepest, darkest hells possible, and I survived those days, so I'm gonna be okay no matter what. And so it's don't think that you're crippled because you have an addictive personality. Just learn how to harness it into something positive, and you'll be unstoppable.
I mean, I always say this, like, I'm not supposed to be here. You're not, like, we're not, according to the world and what we're supposed to be doing, you're locked up, I'm locked up or dead.
Yeah.
But we're not. Okay. And we're like, a guy like me gets, and I'm not, this isn't from an egotistical standpoint. Like, I come from nothing. All right. And because I found sobriety, and because I found recovery, from sobriety. Okay. Because of that, I get to help people all over the country, right? I get to help people all the time. That's what I get to do. But those are the get-tos I get to do, and I have been open to this whole new world, right? This whole exciting world that is full of the same things that it was before. The only difference is now I am so much more connected to people. I'm just connected to people even more than I ever have been, because I let something in that really actually healed things going on up here. It really healed me. It didn't give me a reprieve. It wasn't just this short reprieve from, like, it literally healed me. And I'm able to get up and face the day because of being open-minded, because I was willing to take a leap of faith on some alternative medicines that have been around for a long, long time. And I just stayed open-minded, and my life continuously gets better. Like, I don't know who'd want to argue with that, but there is some people out there that want to argue about that. But for this person right here, being willing to just change just a little bit at a time, and being willing to talk about certain things, has really been the push to get me over the end zone, I guess, so to speak, because it was drilled into me, man, abstinence was the only way. And I was deathly afraid of coming out about what I was doing. I was afraid because they built this whole persona around me. I didn't build that. The television did, the TV show did, and it built this whole thing. And I was dealing with a lot of shame because of that, man. And when I came out about my cannabis use on Built for This with Patrick. He's known as the Soil King. And so I went on his podcast talking about cannabis, and that's where my life it just lifted. Like, it was just this, there's no more, you're not. And I wasn't trying to lie to the world. Like, I take responsibility for not being completely transparent. But that's what this new relationship with myself, that's what it's about, is I was able to become transparent with somebody. And my cannabis use didn't mess up my recovery because I was being honest about it. And that's the thing right there. If you're being honest about what you're doing, then you're in recovery. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care if a PhD doctor that's been doing this and I don't care. I don't care. If you're being honest about this with somebody else, then you're in recovery. And it doesn't matter what else is going on, because you're taking that step to be a better person every day. And that, for me, is so much easier than saying, do the steps or die. Like, that's just so much easier, and I'm not picking a battle with them. I'm just saying, we have all these things that go on that are amazing in this world. And for us to believe that that's the only way is bizarre,
Yeah.
Like, guys like us, we're here to be the voice. Just the voice, just like you say, we're supposed to be doing this. It's been predestined. This is what we're supposed to be doing right now. And only people that have been through these struggles could share this message, because a lot of people, they have to see it, and they have to see somebody succeeding. Well, here we are trying to live our best life.
If you
right?
hide your story, how can people see you succeed?
Yeah.
How can people say, I want that?
You're right.
They can't.
Yeah. I think the part that I like telling my story about what I'm doing today, about the work I get to do, my life, my family. I like to tell that story. People want to hear about the prison. They want to hear about all that stuff. And it's like, you don't want to hear about that. You think you want to hear about that. But hearing what I get to do today is more amazing. You know what I mean? Like, on the way here, I was helping somebody all the way here, and I'm on the phone helping somebody. That's all I'm doing. Like, and that's amazing that I get to do that.
Isn't it nice that things make sense now?
Totally.
It's like, oh, I get it now. I know why I did that. I know why I had to go through all that now, because now my life rocks, because I know what my purpose is.
Every day I know that I get to wake up and try again. And there's nothing that I'm the only person that's going to stop me. It's me. I'll stop me. If I don't want to have a good day, I'm not going to have a good day. And that's just the truth of the matter. But I am certainly not going to stay stuck in the past and stay stuck in that old way of thinking. Like, I just can't do it. I'm so alive with this information. I want to do this all day, every day, and tell people I want to tell everybody the truth, because I buried a lot of people, man. And that's the part that gets me. I keep going back to that. People didn't have to die. People did not have to die, you know, and it's not because I'm the end all be all. It's because the message we share, people hear it. That's the thing, because we vibrate at a high level, man, and people hear us, you know, and that's the special thing. Like, I take my job seriously, man. You know, I was put here for a reason, and my reason is to help people get better. Like, that's it. My life, it's obviously getting better. I used to live like a scumbag, man. I mean, my life is good today. I'm a father and a husband, and I'm a friend. I was never any of those things. And really how I know how I'm doing so well is when my kids want to hang out with me. My kids love hanging out with me. Like, they all day, every day. We homeschool our kid. Me and my wife homeschool. She homeschools. I just throw in when I can, but we hang out with each other all day. All day. We work from home. Everything, it's all from home. We're around each other all the time. And that's how I know we're doing okay. Because my kids don't want to run away from me. My wife wants to hang out with me. Like, sure, we have normal things like anybody else, but we're literally around each other 24/7. And that's because I'm better. That's it. Because I'm better. Not because I'm the best or not because I'm fixed. It's because I'm better. I have a reprieve every day. And that's because I'm staying transparent. And I'm doing the things that you're supposed to do. Like my aftercare plan after doing ketamine for the first time, I'm still doing it. I'm still implementing it in my life. Like, it's not something that I wake up every day and I'm going to go do ketamine. Like, that's not what this journey was about for me. And that's the misconception with people. They don't understand. Like, you're not, oh, I'm going to do ketamine every single day. Like, that's not the way this works. Psilocybin is the same thing. You don't want to jump into bed with these things all the time. You want to do the work and go live your life. And that's the piece, is the education piece. Like, people need to understand what this is about, you know, and they've been stifling us long enough. Like, we've been the voices for our recovery communities for a long time. We're still here. It's just changing a little bit. And it's changing for the better, if you ask me, you know, because we wouldn't have crossed paths if it wasn't for, like, we wouldn't have crossed paths, man. There's a whole purpose of why we've crossed paths, man. And it's predestined before, like, it's already laid out. Like, it's already there.
Yeah.
We're just finally catching up, you know?
I agree.
And it's a beautiful thing that we get to participate in. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That was a great show.
This,
You had one message
this
for the
was an
world.
incredibly powerful episode, but go ahead.
You had one message to give. What would it be?
Oh man, one message to give the rest of the world. There's hope. That's it. It's hope. It's hope. Look, Google me, 134577. My number, I'm a miracle. We're all miracles, but I'm a miracle. Like, I am a miracle, and I know I am. I don't come from a place of ego. I get to participate in life today. And it was because one person gave me hope. One person. And that person, I'll say it, Jimmy Rizzo gave me hope. Like, he's the one that changed my life. He gave me just a little glimmer of hope, and I took off and ran with it. And I haven't put it down yet. I just keep on running. And that's all we need, is just a little bit of hope. Just a little bit. That's it.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the My Self Wellness Podcast. And if nobody's told you that they love you lately, we do.